you believe. Well, you can easily call them heretics. You can obviously put them in hell. I mean, Dante has done it. But what are the ripple effects of that kind of thing, right? And, of course, it begs the other question. Think of it. The Guelphs and the Ghibellines, they're struggling and fighting, and ultimately the Ghibellines lose and the Guelphs win. Then immediately look what happens. Tension within the Guelphs. And then immediately we've got white versus black. Of course, Dante sides with the whites, and the blacks throw him out in exile. Dante, the poet, philosopher, begins to kind of come to this realization that political tensions and schism inevitably lead to just more an eye for an eye, as MLK said, makes the whole world blind, following Gandhi's rule, right? That notion. In other words, there has to be some better way to resolve conflict than this kind of thing. Again, a reason why we as moderns of this poem have some serious difficulties with a whole lot of what happens in this poem. Right? If you put people who you don't like because they don't believe the right way as you in hell, then it makes common sense that believers would then say, well, let's just torch them now and get it over with. And of course, then we will have the counter response. Oh, really? You're going to kill us and burn our mosques? We will kill you and burn your churches. You can kind of see how there's this tension. How do you resolve a tension like this? Well, obviously, that's one of the serious debates philosophically of reading this text, which is, again, why we read this text, right? At 3a, well, we've already mentioned it in the Aeneid. We have Phalejus and the boat carrying across Aeneas. The weight cracks the seams, as we saw, right? And again, that notion that Apollo will rape Cornus, his daughter, and the father is the one that ends up getting jacked, which is, of course, darkly ironic. In other words, don't question the ways of the gods. That was the message of the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid. Remember the beginning of the Odyssey, Zeus, in fact, goes so far as to say, humans have pain and suffering, but it's not my fault. It's not our fault. It's not the God's fault. We, as readers of this, kind of have a tendency to roll our eyes and go, really? Well, whose fault is it that Dido got jacked in the, Aeneid, if it isn't, the two goddesses that messed around with her so badly? Okay. For 3a as well, what is a text that has this crossing of the famous river of death? Right? It's a very popular image in song and video games elsewhere. What is it for you that works the best? And I should just point out, put it in your notes at 3a, we will have some kind of interesting allusion to this when we pick up our Conrad's Heart of Darkness and we play that same game, as well as when we pick up T.S. Eliot's Hollow Men, those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom. Remember us, if at all, not as lost violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuff then. We'll come back to it, trust me. So much of reading Dante is preparing us for reading T.S. Eliot, okay? Finally, at 3b, well, maybe you would anticipate some of these questions. What was a time when you were worried that you might be left alone? You were like, oh, no, you're not leaving me all by myself. No, not down here in hell. Absolutely no way. How about this one? Those lines 46 through 49. Why is it so easy to deceive the self? And why is it so hard, once self-deception has occurred, to see and fix it? This is what the poet says. A whole lot of people that are living right now, they don't think they're coming to this place. Trust me, they are definitely coming to this place. Notice it was swine-like. They're going to end up in this part of hell, right? And then this is a question that's often asked, and we're going to ask it all the way through our study. I think now is the time. We've kind of gestured at this question, but here now for the first time I really want to raise it. Do you think that hell is a propedeutic for moral behavior? By that I mean the following. Do you think that you can scare, literally, the hell out of someone? In other words, I don't want to go to hell and be jacked, so I am not going to put a 45 slug through some guy's brain. In other words, I'm going to keep from doing morally inappropriate things because I'm afraid that if I were to do it and die, I will go to hell. Do you think that works? What are the positive ideas behind that notion, and what are some of the negative ones? Like, for example, well, it only works as long as you actually believe in something called an afterlife. If you don't believe in hell, inferno, then obviously it's no sense of a propedeutic, or is it? Because notice how many times we will have, through the course of fiction and real history, individuals who will say, I don't really believe in this foolishness until the last second. Remember Napoleon, the avowed atheist, and the last thing he did right before he died is what? You're right. Call in a priest and gain absolution. What's up with that? Well, I'm just kind of covering my bets, and maybe we'll get to Pascal and his observations about it's probably a decent bet to at least kind of think about this question. Well, there you go. That's Canto 8. We'll turn now to Canto 9. And again, as I said, these two kind of go together. And some of you will say, Canto 8 was kind of a weak canto because too much is happening and not enough time to be able to kind of see it all together. I think some scholars have pointed out, well, that's because you got to read Canto 8 and Canto 9 kind of together to get us ready for the circle number 6 and the city of Dis. And I hope that we've resurrected a few questions for you that you'll be able to debate amongst yourselves. Thank you.